Let's go with another When I'm Not Podcasting. Joe Rogan. We've talked about him a couple times here on When I'm Not Podcasting, and it's unfortunate. Okay, he was brought in September 1st. We talked about when the deal happened, $100 million. Spotify brought him in. Then he comes into play, and now he's brought him in September 1st. We talked about the rollout, and there was some issues we talked about where there were some people that were concerned about what shows were not showing up on his channel. And then the video stuff still being on YouTube. But again, the show's been brought back. He's already had a couple episodes in his new studio in Austin, Texas. And it sounds like there's going to be some controversial names that are going to be invited to the show. I don't want to say names, but it sounds like one of the people that have been on that show with an infamous four-hour interview looks like he's going to be getting to go back again. Only because the fact that, most importantly, the guy lives in the same city as Joe does now. So I'm going to just leave that there for all of you. Spotify is reportedly fighting with employees about hosting episodes of Joe Rogan's podcast that some consider transphobic. So Business Insider talks this story. So Spotify CEO Daniel Ek has addressed the concerns in an all-hands meeting, and that Rogan's podcast had been the subject of 10 meetings and told employees not to leak to the press. So according to Vice.com, their sources shared questions that have been submitted for the Q&A portion of a meeting that Spotify staffers had. Questions which shorten the name of the podcast to GRE suggest that friction is building between Spotify's leadership and its staff over the podcast. Quote, why has Spotify chosen to ignore Spectrum ERG's guidance about transphobic content in the GRE catalog? One question asked. And then many LGBTQAI AAP plus ally Spotifyers feel unwelcome and alienated because of leadership's response in the GRE conversations. What is your message to those employees? So sources told Vice that Spotify staff highlighted one episode where Rogan interviewed Abigail Schreier about her book Irreversible Damage, the transgender craze seducing our daughters, which is one of the episodes that did make it to Spotify. So Eck told employees not to leak to the media if they want to be included in company conversations about moderation. If we can't have open, confidential debates, we will have to move discussions to closed doors. Now, one of the things that got people all riled up was Joe Rogan made headlines hosting an episode where he recounted a joke and when he made the baseless suggestion that Caitlyn Jenner's trans identity was somehow inspired by the Kardashian women. Jenner and the LGBTQ rights group, the Human Rights Campaign, condemned the segment. So Rogan has 9.5 million subscribers on YouTube, but has an exclusive deal to host the show audio-wise on Spotify, and also the video as well. So as it is for Joe Rogan, he now has... Well, this works for Spotify because they're now ahead of the game of Apple, Amazon, and Google. Now, we already heard that Apple, of course, with their podcast stuff, they're doing more with their music to try to get more listeners to the audio end of their portion. Google making their changes as well. You know, downplaying Google Play Music and just kind of moving things around with YouTube, right? And Amazon now adding podcasts to Audible. Yes, we got that too. Everybody's in the podcasting game, all the major text portals. So the back and forth indicates Spotify will increasingly have to deal with moderation issues, not dissimilar to those at social media companies like Facebook and Twitter. The company does not feature older episodes of Rogan's podcast featuring the likes of Alex Jones, whose podcast got booted from the platform in 2018 for breaching rules on hate content, and other episodes were removed. We talked about those in the last episode. So people are upset. Well, Spotify's looking to make money. And Joe Rogan has an exclusive deal. As far as I know, I don't hear him being censored. And Spotify couldn't have brought him on if he was going to be censored or was going to be told what he couldn't say or do. So if there's a ruckus among the employees, well, that's upon Spotify. But Spotify is going to go with what they're going to do. I mean, this is the risk you take with any of these programs. Again, Howard Stern has said a lot of things when he was brought over to SiriusXM. And you don't think he probably got some flack for that? It's just what happens. Again, Joe Rogan is kind of cut of the cloth of old school radio, of the shock jock radio that we had, but he really isn't a shock jock. He's nothing like that. The truth is, Joe Rogan just talks to people. And he talks to everybody. And that just ruffles the feathers of some people that just don't feel like there's certain people should be given a voice. Well, I understand that, but free speech is important to me and everybody else. that is a First Amendment advocate. And, again, I always talk about not to you, but I always say about the philosopher Voltaire, which I think was always been coined the term that says, I might not agree with you, but I will fight for the right to the death for your right to say what you want to say. And that's how I feel like that. I'm going to close it out like that. Another When I'm Not Podcasting coming very soon. Stay right here to this channel.